a vital part of Black history linked to the Presidio. The legendary Buffalo Soldiers were African-American regiments in the U.S. Army who served in the 19th and 20th centuries. But they also earned the title of the first African-American park rangers. Here's their story.
It's stories that have to be told. They were invisible people.
There's no shortage of history in San Francisco, no matter where you look. And standing on the Presidio, it's right under your feet.
I saw the Presidio for the first time, and I saw where they lived, and I saw where they were buried, and I just decided I had to write the book.
Brian G. Shellum is a West Point graduate, retired Army officer, historian, and author of 5 books on the Buffalo Soldiers. When you ask the average person these days about the Buffalo Soldiers, they mostly think of the Bob Marley song.
The term Buffalo Soldier is a fairly recent term. It wasn't used back then. They were called Negro regiments, or Black regulars is what they would have been called. If you would have called them a Buffalo Soldier to their face 100 years ago, they would have thought you were, being rude or something.
Brian's relentless research and dedication led him to become one of the leading scholars on the subject, and in particular on Charles Young, a fellow West Point graduate, the third African-American to achieve the honor. Young was also the first Black man to achieve the rank of colonel and was the highest-ranking Black officer until his death in 1922 in Nigeria.
I talked to a lot of Black audiences, and they if they don't ask me this question, they want to ask me this question. How can a white historian write about a Black man? And I say, okay, how long does Young have to wait for his story to be told? He was a point man for his race in the U.S. Army. 30 years of loneliness, abuse, social isolation. After he graduated from West Point was closed by Jim Crow to Blacks for another 50 years. Hard as it was for him to live the life he did, he knew he was the only person who could mentor a generation of officers who later, went on to mentor other officers.
His latest publication, Buffalo Soldiers in California, Charles Young and the 9th Cavalry, explores the rich history of the regiment's first days, landing on the Presidio after facing racism and persecution while fighting fierce campaigns across America and the globe.
They'd been to some awful places out in the plains. They'd been in the jungles of the Philippines and grasslands of the Philippines. And so when you come to a place like California, you say, hey, this is nice. Let's stay here. The Buffalo Soldiers found California more welcoming, even in 1902, 1904, than other places in the United States. It was the first time that a Black unit, a Buffalo Soldier unit, had been located in a major city. Most of the time serving on the frontier, they were out on isolated posts.
From the Indian Wars and brutal guerrilla warfare in the Pacific to serving as the honorary guard for President Roosevelt's visit to San Francisco in 1903 and protecting the national parks as the first park rangers, their accomplishments left a permanence in America, helping establish Sequoia National Park, earning respect and a prestige rarely seen amongst African Americans living in the post-war Reconstruction era.
It was kind of unprecedented at the time that they were treated the same as white soldiers. Now, you can say, okay, they weren't making very much money. Okay, but they were making the same amount of money, and they knew that. It's remarkable to look at. These guys were professionals, so those kind of interactions have a positive effect. When you see a Black soldier who knows his he knows his trade better than you, then you kind of pay attention and you try to learn. In effect, they still talk about him today. We're 100 years over 100 years later.
The last segregated unit was deactivated in 1951. More than 400 Buffalo Soldiers are buried at the National Cemetery of San Francisco, including William Tompkins, who received the Medal of Honor at the Battle of Tyacoba in 1898. Their contribution as soldiers and citizens honored and remembered with the help of historians like Brian Shellum, who hopes the next generation of storytellers keeps the legacy of these brave men alive.
There's plenty more work to be done. Out there in California is people I can mentor and pass on this passion for writing about the Buffalo Soldiers, because people, I hope, historians will carry on after I'm gone.
Reporting from the Presidio in San Francisco for photojournalist Jerrett Knapp, I'm Stephanie Lynn, KRON 4 News.